Hey guys, I'm Ron Sneller. Today we're going to be exploring the Personal Consumption Expenditures Index. So let's jump right into it. The PCE price index became the Federal Reserve's preferred inflation gauge starting way back in the year 2000. This shift occurred after then Fed Chairman Alan Greenspan highlighted, highlighted its advantages in the Monetary Policy Report to Congress. Now, the Fed favors the PCE price index over the consumer price index, or the CPI, for several reasons. Firstly, the PCE price index uses a formula that adapts to changes in spending habits, reducing the upward bias inherent in the CPI's fixed weighted approach. It also employs weights based on a broader expenditure measure. Additionally, the PCE price index historical data can be revised to incorporate new information and improvements in measurement techniques, which include refinements to the source data used in CPI, leading to a more consistent time series. While the FOMC has adopted the PCE as its preferred measure, it continues to use a range of price metrics and other cost information to assess inflation trends. For further clarity, we've included a table and two detailed charts in this video here today. The PCE price index can really be divided into two main categories: goods and services. Now, goods represent 33.1% of the index. Now, there are durable goods, which are items intended to last 3 years or more, such as appliances and furniture. And then there are non durable goods. Those are items with a shorter lifespan, like food and clothing. So, durable goods contributed 11.6%, and non durable goods contributed 21.4% of the index. Now, services, on the other hand, account for 66.9% of the index, dominated by household consumption expenditures, which hold a substantial 64% weighting. Nonprofits contribute a very small portion at a 2.9% weighting. And within the household consumption expenditures, housing and utilities, they form the largest group, influencing the overall index with a 17.7% weighting, followed really closely by healthcare at 16.3%. Since 2000, the annualized gain in the PCE price index has typically been about 0.4 percentage points lower than the CPI due to several key differences. First, the CPI uses a fixed basket of goods and services with quantities based on past consumption, rarely updating. In contrast, the PCE price index adapts more dynamically, reflecting changes in consumer behavior and substitutions in response to price changes by frequently adjusting item weights based on current spending data. Second, consumption categories in the CPI and PCE are weighted differently. For instance, housing accounts for about 45% of the CPI, but only 15.4% of the PCE. Third, the CPI measures direct out of pocket expenses by consumers, while the PCE includes all goods and services consumed by households, even those paid by employers and the government, things like medical premium payments made by employers, providing a broader view of consumption. Lastly, variations in seasonal adjustments and price calculations for identical products also contribute to these discrepancies. For example, the PCE's airline fare index is based on passenger revenue and miles traveled, whereas the CPI measures ticket prices for specific routes, leading to different pricing insights. For decades, economists have excluded food and energy prices from inflation measures, commonly referred to as core prices, because they can be both seasonal and volatile. Starting in November 2022, the Federal Reserve said it will focus on a narrower measure known as supercore inflation, which refines this perspective even further. Fed economists categorize core inflation into three segments: core goods, housing services, and core services minus housing. The latter category, often referred to as supercore, gained traction after the COVID lockdowns. This focus stems from the Fed's belief that service sector prices, unlike goods prices, are predominantly influenced by labor cost, and that is a factor that the Fed thinks it can influence. Raising interest rates typically cools economic activity and job growth, which should limit wage hikes. In contrast, they believe goods prices are more susceptible to global dynamics like supply chain variations. Interestingly, in spite of these major interest rate hikes, Supercore has remained stubbornly elevated up 3.3% from a year ago. This is likely a significant argument for fewer rate cuts this year than what the market has been expecting. This report was prepared by First Trust Advisors LP and reflects the current opinion of its authors. So I'd like to give credit for all of this incredible data to Brian S. Westbury, chief economist over at First Trust, and also Robert Steen, deputy chief economist over at First Trust. I am Ron Sneller, and this has been breaking down the basics of the PCE price index. What are your thoughts on inflation and these different measures that the government uses and that the Federal Reserve uses? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you found this video valuable, please share it out there with somebody else who you think might find some value in it. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel at Sneller Financial Services. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next video.